Labour strike enters day 2 as the impact bites harder. The NSA has intervened as a meeting with Labour leaders begin. And some leaders in Ondo State are agitating over President Tinubu's appointment in the NDDC. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Okimaloye in Abuja. Tonight, we get some very interesting perspective because I'll be speaking to a former governor, a former NSC president, and a sitting senator, someone who perhaps will understand the intricacies of labor struggle. But being on the other side this time around, has anything changed? We'll be looking at all of the perspectives tonight into what has become a major impact of the nationwide strike by the Nigerian organized labor. Stick around with me, everyone. But also, of course, the recent agitation about the appointment of the President Bola Tinubu on the NDDC. We'll be getting some reactions from some communities in Ondo State tonight on the program. Before we get into a conversation, let's get to check out some of your political roundup stories across the country.
The appeal court sitting in Lagos has affirmed the judgment of the tribunal upholding the election of Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Obafemi Hamzat as the governor and deputy governor of Lagos State. The justices of the Court of Appeal, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the appeal of the People's Democratic Party for lack of merit. The proposed arraignment of the former Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, was told today at the Federal Capital Territory High Court following an industrial strike embarked upon by the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria of the Federal Capital Territory High Court branch. A visit to the court shows a locked gate and no sign of lawyers trooping in and out of the court premises as one would normally see. Justice Olukayode Adeniyi had last week ruled on Godwin Emefiele's bail. He ordered that he should be released immediately to his lawyers, who are charged with the responsibility of producing him in court for his arraignment today or any other day. The Office of the Attorney General of the Federation has taken over the 5 billion naira fraud case filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) against a former Minister of Aviation, Stella Odua. Counsel to the AGF, David Kaswe, disclosed this during the court proceedings. He explained that a letter had been sent to the EFCC requesting the case file of the defendants. Mr. Kaswe said the commission had yet to release the case file to enable the AGF to commence trial. The acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party has described the outcome of the just concluded off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa and Imo State as another setback for democracy as he alleges irregularities in the conduct of the exercise. The acting national chairman of the party, Mr. Umar Damagum, was speaking at a news conference in Abuja where he noted that several voters were disenfranchised during the last Saturday's polls in the 3 states.
This election is worse than even the one we had. Want to use this medium to tell Nigerians that this is not what we bargained for.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So the organized labor nationwide strike enters day 2 today. Union officials in Kaduna, Rivers, Edo, Yobe, and other states have picketed banks, courts, and government offices, unlike the first day of the strike where we saw some partial compliance with the order to commence on the nationwide strike. All the government offices, banks, and other financial institutions were locked in Kaduna today, the second day of the strike. The enforcement team led by the Kaduna chairman, Ayuba Suleiman, locked the gate of the Kaduna State Secretariat along the Independence Way, where most ministries are located, to ensure total compliance. And similar situation we see in Kaduna, in some part of Abuja, is experienced in most parts of the country today. And in fact, Kwara State, that you just see on your screen. But the House of Representatives says it wants to wade into the matter as the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas announced today that the leadership of the National Assembly will be intervening immediately. The resolution was reached after the Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, through a motion of urgent national importance, urged the leadership of the National Assembly to urgently address the matter. Meanwhile, the Senate is also saying the same thing, as the upper chamber urged organized labor to immediately halt the strike in the national interest. They also resolved that the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the leadership immediately summoned a meeting between the NLC and the TUC. Meanwhile, some of the news that are just coming in, we understand now that members of the Imo Elders Council have met or meeting now with the NSC President Joe Ajaero. I understand that that meeting will be happening in Abuja. The Imo government says the NSC impasse will be resolved soon. According to the leaders, the Nigerians should expect positive results from the outcome of the meeting in no distant time. And the chairman, Cletus Ilumaya, says Joe Ajaero is a son and a brother from Imo State, and he has no choice than to give listening ears to Imo elders. Well, let's get some perspectives. Well, he said a few things about the strike, but tonight we'll be getting more perspectives on his own position on what he thinks of the labor nationwide strike and the way forward for Nigeria, especially at this critical time in our national life. I'm being joined tonight by a former president of the NLC, a former Edo State governor, and a former national chairman of the APC, a sitting senator representing Edo State in the National Assembly, member of the APC, Senator Adams Oshiomhole. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Right, Shiv. Thank you for having me.
You seem to have more former in your titles.
You just showed that the condition is permanent.
All right. The reason why I invited you tonight is about the labor strike. And when you were leaving the vice president office yesterday, you made some statement which is already getting reactions. And I have a feeling that you have more information and more details are coming to you as to the development of things. But when you say, for example, that a strike is misplaced and not in national interest, and for example, labor leaders are already saying that you do not have sufficient information, that's why you said what you said. How do you react to that?
Well, first, let me say this, Shiv, that any day, anytime, at the heart of democracy is the freedom of the citizens. That freedom, in exercise of that freedom, they may do something that infringes on the law. It could be right or wrong. But what is obvious is that in a democracy, nobody can take laws into his own hand. So my understanding is that this strike is about some elements who have not been identified as being responsible for beating up or in a way, subjecting to the president of the NLC to beating and all sort of thing. And of course, looking at the visuals, it appears he was really severely dealt with by people who have not been identified. I believe that the Nigerian government, the Nigerian state, has a responsibility to identify those who are responsible for taking laws into their own hand, not only in terms of beating a president of an organized labor, but assaulting any Nigerian citizen. I mean, that is the law. And if you do that, the police have a duty to investigate, identify those responsible, and bring them to justice. However, the challenge I have with this strike is that I had a similar experience. For example, I was on my way to Delta State, and I went to the airport, and the then director of SSS ordered that I should be arrested and stopped from traveling because we had given an ultimatum to the then president, to the then federal government headed by President Olusegun Obasanjo, which had to do with, not withdrawing, resisting the attempt to withdraw subsidy because of our fears of the consequential increase in cost of living. And they dragged me on the tarmac, and I had my cuts all over the place. And they forcefully prevented me from flying and took me back to the DSS Director General's office, then Colonel Ire. And he offered to take me to the hospital, to their own hospital. And I said, no, I can't even trust a government that has inflicted this kind of hold on me to treat me, because they might as well poison my blood. I said, I wasn't going to do that. Fast forward, I ended up being detained. I was taken away. And for 2 days, at least 48 hours, NSC couldn't locate me. When eventually I was let out, with bandage on my hand, with the blood and all that, I told my colleagues, this blood will further reinforce with my appetite for struggle for justice. The issue is about the welfare of the Nigerian workers in particular, and the welfare of the Nigerian people in general. And this is I make a distinction between the two, is that the workers are former members of the NLC. They are the ones who form all the unions, the industrial unions that constitute the athletes of the NLC. And I said, I will do everything possible to resist the temptation to make my brutalization an issue, but I will remain focused and even more determined to ensure that the issue between us and government, which has to do with the welfare of Nigerian workers and working families, is not compromised. And I remember the then Speaker, Speaker Masari, from now former Governor Masari, he led the member of the House of Rep to members to come and commiserate with me after seeing the injury that I suffered, etc. But I resisted. That is my price for leadership. Now, the issue in Imo is a bit more problematic. Now, the current president of the NLC is from Imo State. And this is the second time they're having a showdown with the governor. And the issues are never really clear. The first one was over dispute about who should be or who did the workers want to elect as chairman of NLC in Imo State Council. The one that was allegedly favored by many people, the president of the NLC coming from Imo, they didn't like the person. They did their election, it was nullified, and the caretaker was appointed. And some of the workers felt that the man appointed was the person favored by the president. NLC president must be seen to be above board. He mustn't drag himself into the little issues and so on, particularly when you are dealing with your state. Now, those issues about who should be, who is the chairman, who is not the chairman, led to a declaration of strike. And the mother union of the NLC president is the NUI, which controls the power supply. And they put up power in Imo State. Now, this latest one, about 9 or 10 days to the last election, again, the NLC president went to Imo State. And over allegations of all sorts of things, but they are never specific. Low wages, etc., etc., etc. And at the end of the day, we saw pictures that he was arrested. He had ordered that there should be no flight to Imo, in or out of Imo, no transport in or out of Imo. Imo must be grounded. And not a few people wondered about the timing. If you don't want the governor, the more reason you should allow people to go and vote him out if your opinion is shared by majority of the people. But you cannot arrest democracy.
You think that is what Ajero is doing?
Wait. It is with, heavy heart that I have to speak on this, because I have promised myself I will never publicly comment. But since we've had all sort of conversation and this is going on, we do need to let the public know. Because once I have spoken, I have to explain myself. What is the wisdom? What was the urgency of declaring a strike few days to a state election, where the people of Imo State will have the opportunity to remove or reaffirm confidence in the president governor? Now, by doing the sort of thing he did, in my view, he was mixing politics with the issues of organized labor. And you know, I mean, even watching Channel television, a week or two to elections, campaign becomes intense, and everybody is suspicious of the other. And in my humble opinion, that is not the best time to go back to your state, having officially identified with a particular political party and a party that had disputed even the findings of the Supreme Court, and you are there with no clear-cut reasons as to what is it that you are seeking to achieve. Now, like I said, I will condemn in the strongest term possible the attack on his person. Because as they say, two wrongs don't make a right. In any case, violence, nobody has a right to resort to violence and attack anyone on account of differences. So there is no question about it. But that said, this has happened. What should we do? Our basic procedure in labor, when we talk of solidarity, is that when an employer, in this case, Imo State government as an employer, if they are seen to be responsible for what has happened, you can mobilize the people, and if the workers are convinced that what has happened is wrong, you can direct them to down tools and limit it to the employer involved. You cannot ask workers in Lagos who have no problem with their governor to disrupt services in Lagos. Workers in Rivers who have no problem with their governor to disrupt services. The basis of solidarity, everybody knows this, is a elementary principle in trade unionism. But where an employer has erred and workers are determined to fight him, they will be given the support to fight. It is when they are overwhelmed and the employer is not responding that you call for solidarity action. Nationwide strike is not a tea party, because those involved in it are not doing it out of fun. Because those who will even suffer more are very ordinary people. So when you do it because you have been pushed to the wall.
Comrade,
let me be clear. Yeah. Whereas I condemn in strong terms whoever is responsible for the attack on the person of the president of the NLC, I do not think that that in itself is enough, given the other problems that are pending that I believe NLC has not addressed. I do not think that you should flood the whole country at once on general strike. General strike is not a tea party. The issue must be to go on general strike in the first system must be that the issues in dispute are national in nature. If it is about solidarity, the person with whom you are showing sympathy must first be allowed to fight for his right.
Let me jump in quickly,
yes.
Comrade. There are those who will say, historically speaking, there was an incident that happened in Edo State when you were governor, where the NSC chairman in Edo's chapter was beaten up. And in that sense, I'll remember, I'll pick up his name. But the question now
is... not his name, by who?
I don't know, I can't remember those. But I remember,
you have to get the facts, so you don't go and feed the public with
no.
news.
Was it true that someone was
not true?
NSC chairman?
Not true.
I will get the facts.
Let me give you a story. When NSC went on strike...
Can I land on my question?
No, because if you make damaging the allegation of that backup, this is not a social media. This is a very reputable media with more than 1 billion viewers, right? When NSC went on strike on one occasion over, I think it was fuel issue. It wasn't really a state government issue. My own special assistant, Olaito, who I took with me from Edo from Abuja Labor Office, NSC office to Edo, he told me he's going to join the strike, and I asked him, go ahead and join the strike. If I wasn't the governor, I would join the strike. And he went on strike. Nobody beat up anybody in Edo because he was on strike.
I'll get the name of
the right to strike is legitimate. But that does not mean that you don't exercise it. There are procedures guided by norms, customs, as well as law.
Let me land on my question. Yes. And the question I'd like to ask you is this. The NLC president was beaten up And the Labour came out to say, this has happened. Federal government intervened. The police intervened. And they gave the time to which the federal government should have intervened or to coming into the matter. That did not happen before they now went on. They gave a warning. What do you think that could have happened when the Labour force came out?
What I think should have happened is this. It is not for nothing that you have what we call state councils of the NLC and state councils of the TUC. So when local issues happen in a state, the workers in those states can deal with it. It is in the course of dealing with it, if they appear to be overwhelmed, and after some period of time it appears the government is not responding, then you call for external assistance. You don't jump in the first instance because you understand that labor is not a business to wreck the national economy. So to plot the whole country on strike, the issues must be such that there is no other way to deal with it. When I was NSC president, we went to supervise a strike in a state and limit it to that state. In fact, that is what makes it attractive. But you governor or you state government that has elected not to do what your workers expected you to do or meet your obligation to the workers, we have asked the workers have resolved to fight you. We put other workers on alert, watching how you respond to that. It is only, please get my point, the use of the word solidarity means the person who is first involved, those involved at the scene of the incident, the Imo workers, if they are convinced that this requires a strike action, they will meet in Imo State and take that decision and communicate it to the headquarters that we are going to go on strike because our president came here in our interest and he was brutalized. But the point I'm making, I think you need to, this is very important. This is very important. It is not on everything that you use general strike to solve. If you have a problem with one employer, you don't put all the employers, subject to them to strike action. No, it's never done that way.
So for those who
solidarity means when we say injury to one is injury to all, the person injured and those around that neighborhood must first fight. And if after some time they need reinforcement, then you call on others to join. And this do not put the generous. Please understand, generous. I
understand you. If you let me put the question, comrade, so that
I saw a lot of people who don't know who are going to.
It's going to be a dialogue, Senator, so that I can ask a question and you can respond.
Go ahead.
There are those who will say this matter started not only a year ago, but about over 2 years ago, 2021. And this is the Labour.
What is the matter?
The back and forth between the NLC and the Imo State governor. In fact, Labour had, on this particular program, the NLC president had told me on this program that it was the current governor of Kebbi State who midwife an MOU that was signed between NLC and the Imo State governor.
What were the issues?
The issue about, the issue of election were passed, but the issue about workers' wages was part of it. Pensions were part of it. There's a long list, almost about 11 items on that list as listed by the NLC. And they say that according to the NLC, that they've given the government a long rope to pull, and the government was not responding. But you said that before the solidarity could come in, it could have come when the government involved is not responding, or the employer involved is not responding. 2021 and now, don't you think it's a long rope to pull?
I'm not sure of your dates. Or let me say this. My pain, which I spoke to yesterday, is that under the watch of the Nigeria Labour Congress, I will excuse TUC from this because the TUC does not cover junior workers who are on minimum wage. As we speak, Sheil, the issue of legal minimum wage is justiciable. Yet, in NSC public address on May Day, many states are not paying the minimum wage that is not even able to take anybody home. Number two, as we speak, after a series of threats to go on strike or not go on strike under this government that is about nearly 5 months old, beginning with the first ultimatum issued by the NLC under Ajero's leadership. Finally, agreement has been reached to pay 35,000 naira added to everybody across the board, which means effectively, even though it doesn't yet have the force of law, but it's an agreement. That agreement is enforceable in our industrial courts. That government has committed itself to paying additional 35,000. What that means is that the actual minimum wage now should not be less than 65,000 if you add 35 plus 30. And as we speak, across the 36 states of Nigeria, state governments, local governments, and even many private employers are still paying people below this 35,000 minimum wage. So if you have mobilized a general strike, asking both public and private sector to join in a struggle against hardship arising from the withdrawal of subsidy, I'm saying in terms of priority, people's lifestyle have been brutalized. Many people can't simply, their take-home pay can't physically take them home. Parents have been embarrassed before their children because they cannot meet their basic responsibility to their children. In my view, if you call a general nationwide strike to say any state government that failed to pay less than 65,000 naira minimum wage, that is to say, the legal minimum wage of 30,000 and the award of 35,000 extra, that we are not going to return to work until you pay us this 35,000 minimum wage, as well as the consequential increase across the board. In my view, that will have a lot of appeal to me and a lot of appeal to the most vulnerable people in our society. Now, to leave this, now, if you talk about the situation anymore, I challenge anyone to tell me that that situation is not prevailing in 1 or 2 or 3 states in the north, 1 or 2, 3 states in north central, and elsewhere. Why is it more different? Why are you not saying any employer who is not paying pension? And I know for a fact that more than 50% of the states are in default. Why are you isolating Imo? Why are you not putting make a general policy? Any state that is defaulting in payment of pension shall know no peace. It is this selective use, isolating Imo and so on. Even the last May Day speech, you can play it back. You will find the NSC president talking about Imo on a matter that I know some of the states that went through election recently, they have the same affliction. I'm just saying that to run a national organization, you must deal with national issues.
All right.
You don't reduce yourself to a local champion. He is not president of Imo workers. He's president of Nigeria workers. So, and for a matter that affects workers in other states, he must be seen to use the same frame of reference. So if we are going to go on strike because arrears are not being paid, any state that is in default of pension arrears should be grounded. Oh. If we are going to go on strike because the 35,000 that NSC negotiated, and let me tell you, Shehu, because these are the things that are missing. If it is about federal government workers alone, the appropriate union to negotiate with is not the NLC. The appropriate union to negotiate with would be Nigeria Civil Service Union. They have Council 1, 2, and 3 that cover both the civil service and the public service. Now, NSC can only go into a negotiation when the matter has to do with states and private sector employers, because NSC is an umbrella organization. So you cannot use the name of Nigeria workers in both private and public sector, states and local government, to threaten a strike or to embark on a strike, and in the end you have an agreement. And in that, present at that meeting were some state governors representing Governors Forum, and as we speak, I have not heard anybody in the NSC insisting that 35,000, that it has to be implemented within X number of days. If it is not implemented, because the worker can't continue to starve we will have to react to it. That is the kind of thing that will appeal to me.
I wanted to. So when you
I'm just saying that a leader.
Yeah, when you were talking about your own incident with the DSS.
Yes.
And the reference I was trying to make, because I remember vividly what happened that time, because it was reported at the time, and I was making reference to the case. I remember his name now, Emmanuel Ademokun, who was the NLC chairman in Edo State at the time in December of 2013, who said, according to him, quotes, I was beaten to stupor. And the allegations was that he was beaten by thugs sent by the state government. That was when you were governor. And I was going to ask you. No, just a moment. If I'm allowed on my question.
No, you can't lie on the question. No, you can't lie on the question. Produce the evidence.
It's been reported.
Nobody.
It's been reported here.
No.
Emmanuel Ademokun
alleged. No. What was the reaction of the state government?
Emmanuel Ademokun at the time alleged that thugs beat him up to stupor.
Okay.
And he alleged that the thugs were sponsored by the state government. It's there.
What was the state government response?
So the question I'm asking
No,
hold on.
What was the response
hold on, comrade, if you allow me to put the question.
With this half-truth.
No, let me.
It's not true.
Let me put the question, sir.
Put it.
Would you allow me?
I will.
All right. So the situation, just a moment, if you allow me to put the question, and I'm making reference to what happened when you were governor.
It's not true.
Would you allow me to put the question?
You don't make allegations that are not true on the national television.
That was the report at the time.
It's a
Emmanuel Ademokun at the time. Do you remember him or not, sir?
Of course I know Emmanuel Ademokun.
Do you remember, sir, in December of 2013, that he was allegedly to have been beaten up, and he said in his own word that he was beaten to stupor. And his allegation at the time was this was orchestrated allegedly by thugs sponsored by the government. So my question is that kind of situation, how do you handle it as a governor? That's my question.
I cannot answer a false question because you are fishing in false waters. It is not true.
Is it because you are involved here? And the question
you are involved because you are peddling lies. You are peddling on truth. I'm sorry to use the word lies.
That you don't.
You are peddling on truth.
That you don't agree.
And I challenge you to because
I'm reading the story to you.
As a media who has been active, you have a station in Benin. What was the response of the state government? Because even if you, ordinary citizen, you allege that a cameraman beat you up, well, they will go to the cameraman and ask you, why did you beat up Shehu? You mean that the state government kept quiet if there was such an allegation? I'm hearing it from you for the first time.
He alleged that he said he was beaten to stupor, and the words that I used was that he alleged that this was sponsored by thugs.
This is one lie you will not be able to get away with.
If you don't believe and agree with that,
it is not true. You don't ever believe.
So what is your truth? What is your truth, comrade?
That is not true.
What is your own truth?
What is my own truth?
How? Yeah. If you don't agree with what was
reported, that somebody dies and I say the person didn't die, what is my truth? Is that not my responsibility?
Do you remember the incident with Emmanuel Ademokun in December, sir?
Don't diminish the power, this channel by fishing on. Talk to issues that are verifiable.
Comrade, I'm asking you a question. You don't want to agree.
Falsehood. I have answered you that it is not true. If you see the
burden of proof,
the burden of proof is yours.
I put the date to it. I put the person involved here. But the question, the bigger question.
That makes it the correct story.
Senator, let's move on. If you're not going to answer the question, let's move on.
No, because you are lying.
I'm not lying, and I'm not. I don't lie here.
He who alleged.
I told you.
You have the burden of proof. That your journalist doesn't give you the lancet.
Just a moment. We'll put up on the newspapers that reported it at the time.
Okay, and you must put up the state government's response. Yeah. And
that's what I'm asking. You were saying that the government responded, and I'm asking what was the response of your government?
I asked you what was the response. You don't expect me to call me.
You were the governor at the time, sir.
Therefore.
Comrade, if you want to answer, let's move on to other issues. The question here now, moving forward from what the stalemate, because it's an obvious stalemate between the FG, the NLC has intervened. But there are other national issues which the NLC has involved itself with. You do not agree with their modus operandi upon this particular instance. How do you hope that the NLC will move forward from here?
No, my advice to NLC is this. And I have never, play back what my first interview with you, consequent upon the withdrawal of the subsidy and the consequential increase in cost of living, what I said. I said, Labour has the legitimate responsibility, they have obligation indeed to defend the living standard of working families. And the good news is that even the president agreed that the withdrawal of subsidy has triggered some unintended but inevitable consequences, namely high cost of living. And the good news is that he's ready to deal with it. And so NSC's demand for adjustment in compensation and other suggestions that they have made that are intended to cushion the effect, I don't like to use the word palliative, to cushion the effect of the increase are legitimate. I said so on this program. You can play it back. I was involved in that negotiation. In fact, I can tell you that at that time, the chief of staff even asked that we adjourn the meeting for 4 days. NSC asked for 2 weeks. So everyone was determined to have this thing fixed timelessly. I have nothing to gain because I've been senator. What's the senator? As a city governor, I am on record, if it's not convenient for you, since you are fishing for half-truth and things that in your calculation will embarrass my person, I can tell you, I am on record as leaving Benin to join NLC under President Wamba to protest to Senate when David Mark was the Senate president, to demand that minimum wage be increased and to protest against the attempt to deregulate the Nigeria Labour Congress. And I went back home and I increased the salary of Edo workers from 80,000 minimum wage to 25,000. Because that time, governors were saying they cannot afford 80,000. And so to dismiss the argument, I increased the workers' pay to 25,000. The then vice president called me, where will you find the money to pay? I said, simple. It's the same source that I find money to pay when they increase the cost of a Toyota car that we use to run government, when they increase the cost of every other consumables, including stationaries. If I'm able to meet those costs, there is no reason why I cannot meet the cost of high cost of living. We are in a market environment. If all other costs are going up, food prices are going up, clothing is going up, even school fees are going up, why should my compensation not go up? If we agree that we're in a market, once the seller of a product and the buyer of a product can't agree on a price, there will be no transaction. And that is what you call strike. There is nothing, it's the logic of a fair market transaction.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is perhaps...
So all I'm saying here, so that I wrap it up,
yeah.
The issue is, I'm advising the NLC, leaders should get the priorities right. I still start now. There is no Nigerian worker whose wages has not been adjusted since the withdrawal of subsidy, who is comfortable. But even those whose wages have been adjusted, we can talk about relative reduction, because even the government talk about palliative, and they have to work out a lasting, sustainable solution. I think NDDC should address that. And I am in pain that even as we know that 30,000 is no longer realistic, I am in pain that under the watch of NLC, some people, some state governors are not even paying the 30,000, and the workers are not put on strike. And it is the same NLC. So I'm saying NLC should be seen to deal with anyone who violated basic worker rights. Not concentrate on the state that the NLC president happened to come from. I came from Edo. I did not ask Edo to pay wages if Delta State is not paying it. If we were going to fight in Edo, we would fight in Edo as we are fighting in Delta, as we are fighting in Cross River, as we are fighting in Sokoto, as we are fighting in Maiduguri. I did not go and take over the responsibility of the local chapter of NSC in Edo State. I knew I had to be careful. And it is more so when you have politically, I mean, my comrade Nigeria, he know I supported him in terms of personal choice. I supported him as president of NNC. I thought he held a lot of promise. He contested the election 8 years ago. He lost. This time, he has joined Labour. He's entitled to. We registered the Labour Party. And I recognize the right of people to participate in Labour. But when at the eve of an election, you go to your state, and a state in which both the government and those opposed to the government have raised the political temperature to a level that was beginning to affect the security of lives and property. You don't want, at the eve of such an election, to go and organize a protest. That's what I'm saying.
Let's anchor on this note.
I think that we have bigger issues for Labour.
This is not going to be the last outing of Labour, especially on national issues, because they have the issue of petrol subsidy, which they are engaging the federal government on. How do you think a new government like the government of President Tinubu would handle the issue of Labour? Because things are hard, things are difficult in the country. Labour will always talk. How do you hope they can manage that situation?
The day Labour stop talking, then it will be disaster for Nigeria. Because even if I were to be president of Nigeria, every country, no president is good enough not to have a countervailing force that can checkmate his policies if they veer off what they consider to be the popular cause. Labour is in legitimate business of protecting and defending living standard. Any public policy that undermines the quality of life of workers, NLC and TUC have inherent responsibility to deal with it. What I'm saying is that right now, you don't need to ballot. If our Ajero, that beating, whoever did it, why we encourage police to continue to go after those people.
And I said,
I will ensure that agreement that we reach, the federal government and some state government were in attendance at that meeting, the representative state governors, and by implication the local government, that 35,000 this month, in fact from last month, that money is in the pocket of workers, which means effectively that no Nigeria worker should go home. Those who used to be on 30,000 minimum wage should now be on 65,000. That for me would be my priority.
All right.
I will sacrifice my own. I have been detained. On one occasion, Ganifa Yerimi was detained. Femi Falana had been detained because they associated with us. But we did not allow the fact of our detention to become the issue. We remain focused, our eyes on the ball. Namely, you must do what is right. Because nobody will get from a society in which more and more people are getting poorer, people are hungry, people are dying avoidably. Because when your vitamin C level drop, you become more susceptible to diseases. There are a lot of issues NSC should be dealing with. Rather than going to Imo State today, Imo State next week. What is special about Imo? Because the NSC president come from there? No. All right. Now, elections are over. It is now governance issue. Put your political affiliation aside and deal with the issues. So, the Labour Party in UK is the best example. You cannot be Prime Minister of UK without the backing of the Trade Union Congress in UK. But you know something? If they go for a general election and the Labour Party is defeated and Conservative Party wins, Labour will not try to organize a strike to undermine the Conservative government because it is not their choice. They recognize that the ultimate choice must be that the British people have voted for. Even if it doesn't coincide with the choice of the TUC. TUC will not use industrial action to settle perceived political differences. That is dangerous for NLC. If NLC today had called the general strike and say, we have signed an agreement with the federal government, they promised to increase the salary across the board by 35,000, which means that effectively minimum wage is now 65,000. Whatever is your old salary, you now must earn 35,000 more, which in my view is still not enough. And any employer, any state governor, any local government, any employer in the private sector who fails to pay, we are on strike until the state government, until the employer, whether public or private, agrees to pay. I will have a good hardship because that is why NSC is formed, to create an umbrella that can cover all workers across all sectors. They are not representative of federal civil servants. There is a National Union of Civil Service that deal with civil service questions only. NSC is an umbrella organization covering about 42 athletes that cut across both the private and the public sector. All I'm just saying is that in terms of the pains I see on the street, the agony I see in the face of people, if I have to advise the NSC, I need a way to listen, and I have talked to some of them, prioritize the hunger in town over and above your personal indignity.
Senator, we need to leave it at that.
That's just the point.
Senator Adams Oshiomhole, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
No need to embarrass you. We will not do that. We'll stay on the part of truth.
No,
and that's what we do here
on
Channel Television.
Truth is sacred.
That is what we do.
It doesn't require supporters club. He can stand on his own.
Absolutely.
On his own.
And no matter how long you don't,
and I will never betray Labour. But when Labour leaders miss the point, consistently, no, it is time to say, look, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's get our priorities right.
Senator Adams Oshiomhole, a former NLC president and a former governor of Edo State, a sitting senator. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break, everyone. And when we come back, agitations over NDDC appointment by President Tinubu. We're speaking with one of the leaders in Ondo State on this matter. Join us again, everyone.
You're heading home from work. In the busy traffic, your car breaks down. Car horns blast. Your car is pushed aside. You call for help. Phone battery blinks and dies. You take a cab. Few miles, tire bursts. What a day. Frustrated, sweating, and tired. Nearing home, darkness envelops the street. Wow! Just one house is bubbling with life. Brilliant lights, loud music, smiling wife, all welcome you.
We alone have light?
Yes, it's JRB Solar Energy Systems, my anniversary present to us.
No matter how dark life is, the sun is gonna shine on everything you do. JRB solar inverters, batteries, solar panels, solar streetlights, and more. Telephone 0906 752 1111. Email sales@jrbsolar.com. JRB, the sun is gonna shine on everything you do.
National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILS, is organizing the 8th NILS National Quiz Competition on Legislature and Democracy for secondary schools across the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The competition began from state-level rounds to the geopolitical zones, where victorious schools earned the privilege to represent their respective zones in the finale as follows. North Central, School for the Gifted Gwagwalada FCT. Northeast, Penn Resource Academy, Gombe State. Northwest, Government Pilot Secondary School, Daura, Katsina State. Southeast, St. Teresa's College, Nsukka, Enugu State. South-South, Community Secondary School, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Southwest, Greater Tomorrow International School, Arigidi, Ikare, Akoko, Ondo State. The finale will hold at the National Assembly Complex, Abuja. Date 16th November 2023. Time 10 a.m. prompt. Special guests expected include President of the Senate, Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON. Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, and other notable personalities. Professor Abubakar Suleiman, Director General, NILS announcer.
For many years, we have secured and beautified your buildings with our security doors. And now, introducing Watson Time German, Israeli, and Turkish doors. Visit any of our factories, reach our distributors nationwide. Think doors. Think Watson Time doors.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So, Elijah stakeholders in Ondo State have reacted to the statement made by Edo State Man and Ijaw Leader Chief Edwin Clark, calling for the outright removal of Ondo, Imo, and Abia State from the Niger Delta Development Commission. Well, they're also not happy about the manner in which the NDDC appointments have been made. Tonight, I'm being joined by the National Coordinator of the concerned Elijah Stakeholders Committee, Mr. Akinola Monegun. Thank you so much indeed for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Shil.
Yeah. Not only that you are unhappy with what Chief Edwin Clark said about the removal of these states from, including your own state, Ondo State, from the oil producing state, you are also not happy with the appointment being made to the NDDC. What exactly is your grievance?
Yeah, the NDDC is a creation of the law. There is this NDDC Act 2000. That NDDC Act 2000 is supposed to deal with states that have been negatively impacted by a lot of oil exploitation. Ilaje and Ondo State is part of it. And the law states that there shall be for the NDDC a managing director and 2 executive directors who are indigenous of the oil-producing areas. And they shall be rotated, not repeated. But if you look at what is happening, we have repetition upon repetition.
What, for example, what kind of repetition are you talking about?
Yeah, the position of MD was previously taken up by a Bayelsa man, Ndutimi Alaibi, in 2005 to 2009. So if you are talking about rotation, another Bayelsa man should not be MD.
So which state is supposed to be next? Akwa Ibom has had it?
Akwa Ibom has had it. Delta has had it. Rivers had had it. Bayelsa had had it. So
after Bayelsa, it was supposed to. Which is next?
Which is next? Number 5.
By your own calculation?
No, by our production quantum. Not my own calculation.
So so there is a Bayelsa now.
Repeating as MD. Take that. Executive Director Project. Severally, 2 other Akwa Ibom indigenes have been Executive Director Project. They are having the third shot.
What is it about the Executive Director Project?
No, it's a position in NDCC.
It's the juicy one, right?
Not about juicy one.
But why is it creating that controversy? Why are you agitating about it?
Because of the cheating involved in it.
You think that it should have come to Ondo State?
No, you have Ondo State ordinarily should have been given the MD. Places like Imo, Abia, Edo will have gotten executive directors. If you talk about rotation, you are not expected to do repetition.
And if it was coming to Ondo,
yes,
it should have come to the larger community.
Obviously.
Which is the oil producing.
Which is the oil producing.
And that is the agitation.
That is the agitation.
So which part of Ondo State has the appointment or the nomination from President Tinubu?
Well, yes, there is this man from Ondo State, Abegunde. They made him Executive Director of Corporate Services. And the law is against the law. The law says indigenous of oil-producing areas, Akure does not produce oil. So he should not have been given that position. The position was not given to Elijah, it was given to Akure.
Is the contemplation of the law talking about specific communities in those oil producing or talking about oil producing as a state?
No, area cannot be a state. In that law, state was mentioned. Area was mentioned. So area is a place, local government area, not the state. Akure has never been impacted by oil production. So what gives them this right to become members of executive in NDDC? What gives them the right?
So the alleged leaders now are sort of agitated. You feel that you are being cheated.
Yes.
That's what you feel?
Yes.
What are you going to do now?
Yes, you see, we had given the government, we have spoken with the government. We wrote confidential letter to the Attorney General talking about the illegitimacy of what they are doing. It's not only the individuals, the citizens that should obey rule of law. The government also must come clean when it comes to rule of law. It's number 7 on this government agenda, rule of law. The 8-point agenda, rule of law is number 7.
I've seen that you made newspaper publications, you've written openly. Beyond that, you have a senator representing your senatorial district.
That is correct.
What effort has been made? Because these persons, these nominees are bowed before the National Assembly. What are you doing in that respect?
Okay, I'll tell you. Before now, last year, that same position was given to somebody from Owo. But that time it was Executive Director Project.
On Owo is also outside of the...
It's outside the oil producing area.
Has an Elijah man been appointed?
No, no.
In the history of the NDDC?
No, no. No single
Have you gone to court to challenge this?
There are several cases. We don't want to hit up the polity. There are several cases. 3 senators, 3 distinguished senators wrote the Senate president, wrote the president not to do that. But they still went on, they did it. You can look at it. Look at their effrontery. Look at the insolence.
Are there members of the Ilaje Elders Council, Ilaje's leaders and stakeholders who are members of the APC?
So many.
What are their own intervention? Are they not speaking? Because you should have been speaking in your state before this goes out.
Well, even the present deputy governor is an Ilaje man. But beyond that, I don't know the consideration they use for making all these positions. But what we are saying, we are not asking for too much. We are asking for the government to obey rule of law. What is written? What is even number 7 on the agenda? Because the government, the president is going out, going everywhere, canvassing Nigeria. If the international community knows that there is no rule of law in Nigeria, I wonder why they will come here to waste their investments.
So what is, because in the next few days now, there will be activities in that respect. What are your hopes?
Well, our hopes are that the government, I still believe that Tinubu himself used
President
Tinubu used to be a pro-democracy activist, just like us. So maybe he had not had, but I know he had heard about it. He should do what is right. And he said it at the bar conference, that if there's a genuine mistake, he will be always ready to correct it. He will be always ready to correct it.
But there will be people who will remind you that it can be true that an Elijah man has not been appointed in the NDDC. Olushola SAN,
yes,
has served on the NDDC, hasn't he?
Not as an executive member. He was the state rep. Even now, we still have an Elijah man. Every state that produces oil must have
a representative.
But
what you are fighting
but beyond then, you have managing director, you have executive directors. If that law is obeyed for the chairmanship slot, why not for the...
All right. Mr. Akinola Bonegun,
yes,
National Coordinator of Ilaje Elder Stakeholders Council. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Oshiomhole. Bye-bye.
Hi. Hello.
Oh, can you see me? It's got my name on the cup.
Hi, Africa Magic. I would like to say happy birthday.
Congratulations to Africa Magic.
20 is a lot.
I was shocked that it's only 20 years
of telling stories of passion.
Thank you for inclusion. Thank you for training me and raising me. Thanks for nurturing stars.
Today, if we are loved and celebrated around the world, Africa Magic has played a key role in that.
Happy birthday, Africa Magic. To the best of them all, we love you.
Congratulations from Bright Izigburubu, Badman Ball, Green Baby Hustler, Alaji with the long gone. Champagne.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.